Hello again, and thank you so much for joining me for this video. So what I'm going to talk about now is I'm just going to do the traditional kind of syllabus overview that we typically do when we're together in the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to try not to just read the syllabus to you because that would be kind of boring and kind of not necessary. Um, but generally what we focus on in this course is a variety of topics that have to do obviously with the research process and also the statistical operations that are required to assess data that's collected using a variety of research methods. So typically how I structure this course is for the first 7 weeks or so, we're pretty much focusing exclusively on research methods. So we start with the very simple basics, right, that most of you have learned about the scientific method from the time you were in about 6th grade or 7th grade. That's when I learned about the scientific method. Um, so we'll go from there, go from a level of relative simplicity all the way to more complex concepts related to research design. And then in the second half of the semester, it'll be similar. So we'll start with what most of you probably learned in 4th grade, right? The measures of central tendency, like median, mode, all of those things. And we'll go all the way up to dependent samples t-tests, right? So hopefully you guys will remember some of these concepts from um, Stats 126. But even if you don't worry, because we are all going to start at the same place, basically. So because of everything with COVID and the financial strain that we're all experiencing, I do not require you to purchase any of the textbooks that I use. So I consider it my job to give you access to all of the information that you need. So absolutely do not feel pressured to purchase any of these texts. But they are the texts that I use, and they would be helpful to you, particularly if you plan to go to graduate school or do some kind of independent research project in psychology. These would be good options for you. And they can be purchased pretty much anywhere. Amazon, I believe the bookstore might have some of them. And I also really like Vital Source. If you guys haven't used Vital Source before, it's a wonderful way to get textbooks delivered right to your tablet or your computer. And I know this sounds like I'm like doing an ad for them, but I do really like them, and I use them personally for myself instead of carrying textbooks around. So I thought you might be interested. So the books that we have is the research methods text that I use is Discovering the Scientist Within, Research Methods in Psychology. And it's really excellently written. It's very readable. It's not like a lot of research methods textbooks that are very dry. And they use a lot of real world examples that can be really helpful. So I would encourage you to check that out if you're planning to purchase texts. And equally valuable is our textbook, our stats book, which is Statistics for People Who Hate Statistics. Again, most stats textbooks feel really inaccessible and complicated, but this is a very simple sort of how-to guide for even the most complex statistics. And lastly, we have the 7th edition of the APA manual, which just came out this year. So we are going to be talking about APA style in this course, so it might be helpful to have kind of a how-to guide. Okay, so now let's talk about how lecture is going to work in this course, given the online format that we find ourselves using. So basically what I have decided and what my years of experience doing online teaching has told me is the right strategy, is I have decided to keep all lecture videos and the entire lecture portion of the course asynchronous, right? So what asynchronous means in this context is that instead of meeting on Zoom every Monday and Wednesday during our assigned class period, which is from 4:10 to 5:25, instead I've decided to pre-record videos on our various lecture topics and make those available to you either on Canvas or on my YouTube channel if you prefer to go there. Okay, so basically what this means in effect is that instead of requiring you to show up for class on Monday and Wednesday afternoon, I've given you the option of watching these pre-recorded videos whenever you would like to do so, right? But I also recognize that a lot of students prefer the opportunity to meet face-to-face so that they can ask questions or seek clarification or what have you. So basically what I have for us is the best of both worlds. So if you would prefer to just watch videos on your own and get all of your lecture material for the course that way, you're more than welcome, right? But if you find that you have a lot of questions and you're not really getting a lot out of the videos, then every Wednesday during our assigned class period, I have an optional clarification session. Right? So every Wednesday from 4:10 to 5:25, you will have the option of joining me on Zoom, live on Zoom, and I can do any number of things during those sessions. If you have already watched the videos and you have specific questions about what you saw in the videos, you can ask me those questions. If you haven't gotten a chance to look over the videos and you would kind of like me to go over it live, kind of in person virtually with you, then we can definitely do that on Wednesday during the clarification session as well, right? So again, lecture material for the course will be presented asynchronously. So instead of holding live Zoom sessions during the assigned class periods that you're required to go to, I will upload a series of videos ranging from 10 all the way up to 60 minutes that you can watch anytime, and those will be available on my Canvas homepage as well as on YouTube. And if you log on to Canvas, you'll see that I've divided the course into 12 modules. So I believe you can only see the modules going up to the midterm right now, but I will upload others later. And each module is going to contain the lecture videos I have posted for the week, PowerPoint slides to accompany each of those lecture videos, as well as any lab or homework assignments that we have, right? But you have the option every Wednesday during our assigned class period of coming to a clarification session. And like I said, this clarification session can be just an informal question and answer where you can ask me anything you like after watching the videos. Or you can ask me to go through the slides with you one-on-one virtually if you would prefer to do that rather than watching the pre-recorded videos. One thing I ask you to do though, if you do plan on coming to the live clarification session on Wednesday, is if you do have a question, I would like you to submit your question to what's called the community forum. So you can access the community forum by going to the discussion sidebar on Canvas. And in my next video, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so one change that I have made this semester is I'm offering extra credit for students who create what I refer to as video summaries. Okay, so basically, it is really important for your success in the course that you watch all of the lecture videos in each module very carefully and take notes, right? And so my very strong recommendation is that you watch lecture videos during our assigned class period on Monday and finish them by the optional clarification session on Wednesday. Okay? So try if you can to watch all of the videos I've posted on Monday and finish them prior to the clarification session on Wednesday, where I can answer your questions or go through the content of the video with you. So basically, to incentivize this practice, any student who submits their weekly summaries for each lecture video in all of the modules will be able to drop their lowest homework grade and will receive 3 extra credit points on either the midterm and final exam, right? So all of that is to say, if you watch all of the lecture videos that are posted on Canvas and write a summary for each of those videos, okay, and you do that for every module, then you will get to drop your lowest homework grade, and you will also get an extra 3 points on the midterm exam or the final exam, okay? And as far as specific requirements for the video summaries, I would prefer that they are 4 to 6 sentences in length, and they must also clearly show me that you have watched each video entirely, right? So I'm going to be looking for summaries that include a synopsis of everything that was presented in the video, okay? And I'm also going to be looking for evidence that you have watched the videos, right? So any terminology that I use, I would like you to use that terminology. Anything that I say specifically is very important. I would like you to reference in the summary, right? To give me just an indication that you watched the video and processed it as actively as you can, right? So again, each summary should be 4 to 6 sentences long, typed up, okay? And there is a place on Canvas for you to submit those video summaries for each module, right? So if you were to do one, for example, for Module 1, which is where we're starting, okay, you would have 3 video summaries to complete. Okay, so that would be a total of 3 video summaries, each 4 to 6 sentences long. Okay, and unfortunately, though, you have to turn those sentences in on time, or they will not be accepted. Right? So because I want you to have at least attempted to watch the videos and summarize them by in time for the clarification session, then that means the summaries are going to be due at 4:10 p.m. every Wednesday. Okay? So the best way for you to succeed in this course is for you to start watching lecture videos on Mondays during our regularly assigned class period, and to make sure you finish watching them by Wednesday prior to the optional clarification session at 4:10 p.m. So that you can submit your video summaries by then. Okay, and again, successful completion of these video summaries will result in 3 extra credit points on the final or the midterm exam. You get to choose. and also the opportunity to drop your lowest homework grade. Okay, so again, because of COVID, I did kind of try to pare down a lot of the assignments that you guys will end up having to do. So really there's only three grading groups here, or types of assignments that you're going to be graded on. So we'll have labs. You will receive a grade for labs, and those are worth 25%. The same with your homework is also 25%. And we will have an open note, open book exam. We'll have a midterm exam and a final exam. Okay, so lab sessions are going to be a little bit different. So lab sessions are going to be synchronous for many of them, not all of them, but quite a few of them. But you won't be working by yourself. So in the second week of classes, or the third week of classes, I will send you, I will basically divide the class into lab groups of 3 to 4 students, and I will send you your lab group assignment, okay? So that you know who your lab members are. And then when we're ready for our first synchronous session, which won't begin until week 3, what'll happen is I will log on to Zoom and I will divide you into breakout rooms so that you can work with your lab partners on your lab assignment. And you'll find, I think, that that is very helpful, especially when we get into the more complicated stuff. Learning, for example, how to read output from statistical software like SPSS, how to write an annotated bibliography, etc. It'll be very helpful to you to have lab partners to kind of work together with. So what I'll do every week that we have a synchronous lab is I will post a video ahead of time, just like I do with lecture, that will explain what we're doing for lab that week. And I'll also have, handouts, things like that. So my expectation is that before lab on Thursday, from 1:40 to 3:30, by the way, is lab time. So before lab on Thursday, my expectation is that you have watched that video and you have gone through any handouts that I have on your own, so that when I put you in the breakout room, you'll be ready to work with your partner. So you might be asking, why am I choosing live lab sessions when I've already uploaded an explanation of what we're doing in lab? Well, the reason I've decided to do it this way is basically so that I'm on hand to answer questions, right? So when you're doing stats, especially, you'd be surprised how many questions you might end up having, particularly given that this is something that a lot of you haven't done before, and I want to really be available live in person to make myself available to you to answer those questions. Okay? But not all of our labs will be synchronous, so we will be doing some labs asynchronously that you can complete on your own schedule. So what you should do is look in the syllabus where I have the schedule, and any lab session that will not be synchronous is indicated with an asterisk. And again, we will not begin lab sessions until week 3. So we've got a ways to go before you'll actually have to hop on Zoom and be there with us in person. Okay? Okay. So homework assignments are going to be assigned for most of the modules. So pretty much on a weekly basis. and they will usually be a combination of short answer, math calculations, and again, SPSS questions. So SPSS is that statistical software that I mentioned. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, we will not, we do not have access to SPSS online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate the output for you, and you're going to interpret it. That's what we're kind of our compromise that we're doing this semester. So yeah, so you might see during the first half of the semester, most of the homework is going to be conceptual, but again, it'll just be short answer questions. And then for the second half of the semester, it'll be mostly computations, math computations, and also interpreting that SPSS output. One thing I do want to mention is that if you have a graphing calculator, that would be very helpful to you in the second half of the semester. It doesn't necessarily have to have graphing capability, but what is helpful in graphing calculations is they have a stat menu, which will enable you to check a lot of your work as you're proceeding through these problems, which is helpful. And I think the most helpful feature of graphing calculators is that you can actually see what you've inputted, right? Whereas with kind of standard calculators, you know, you put a number in and it disappears as soon as you hit another button. So certainly if you have those available, that would be helpful. Again, it's not required, but it is something that students find very valuable if you still have those from, you know, high school calculus or whatever, or even from Stats 126. Okay, so now let's talk about how exams are going to work in this course. Just to simplify things, I've decided to reduce our number of exams to just 2 exams. So you will have a midterm exam and a final exam, and each of those exams will be worth 25% each. So the way exams will work is I will give you study guides far in advance that will tell you exactly what information from each module will be tested on the exam. And you will have 2 to 3 days to complete each exam. So for example, for the midterm exam, I will post that to Canvas on Thursday, February 26th at 2 p.m., which is the start of the lab period that we have on Thursdays. So I'll post the exam on Thursday, February 26th at 2 p.m., and you will have until 11:59 p.m. that following Sunday to complete it, right? So I'll post the exam on Thursday afternoon, and you will have until that Sunday to complete it, okay? And the way that my exams work is they are open note. So you can use, you can watch any of the PowerPoint videos, you can consult your notes. My only rule is that you cannot use the internet and you cannot use any other sources besides those that were presented in class. Okay? So the same thing, the same protocol will occur for the midterm exam. For the final exam. So I will post the final exam to Canvas on Wednesday, May 5th at 2 p.m. And then you will have until Saturday, May 8th at 11:59 p.m. to complete it. Okay? And both the midterm and final exam are going to cover material presented in both lecture and lab. And exams, for the most part, will consist of essay questions This is particularly true of the midterm. But for the final exam will be comprised mostly of statistical computations and SPSS problems. So SPSS problems, or SPSS rather, is the statistical program or the computer program that you'll use to analyze statistics. Okay, so most of the exam questions on the final are going to be either statistics computations by hand or using this computer program. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, though, that's very important is that I do not accept late exams. So if you do not submit your exam by 11:59 on May 8th or 11:59 on February 28th, in the case of the midterm, it will not be accepted. Okay, so homework assignments are going to be assigned for most of the modules, um, so pretty much on a weekly basis. And they will usually be a combination of short answer, math calculations, and again, SPSS questions. So SPSS is that statistical software that I mentioned. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, we will not, we do not have access to SPSS online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate the output for you, and you're going to interpret it. That's what we're kind of our compromise that we're doing this semester. So yeah, so you might see during the first half of the semester, most of the homework is going to be conceptual, but again, it'll just be short answer questions. And then for the second half of the semester, it'll be mostly computations, math computations, and also interpreting that SPSS output. One thing I do want to mention is that if you have a graphing calculator, that would be very helpful to you in the second half of the semester. It doesn't necessarily have to have graphing capability, but what is helpful in graphing calculations is they have a stat menu, which will enable you to